Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Again, my name is Courtney Austin, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator here at AIM. Today's webinar will be recorded, which means that all attendees will automatically be muted so that we can get a quality recording. This recording will later be posted on our website under our training webinar page, so you can always go back and view what you may have missed. If you do have any questions during the webinar, since you will be muted, please go ahead and post them into the question box, and we will go ahead and try to answer all of them at the end of the webinar. If we do run out of time at the end of the webinar, our marketing team will be following up with each of you in order to answer any questions you may have and help explain any details you may have missed. So with that, I will go ahead and hand it over to Don and Mike today so we can get started. Go ahead and take it away, Don.
Thanks, Courtney. Good morning, everyone. Along my side today is Mike Anderson. Welcome, Mike.
Morning. How you doing?
Excellent. A great day. Always is. Every time you get up, it's a new day. So today we're going to start off with our webinar. Worksite is the answer to more LTC sales. In the next 30 minutes or so, we are going to go and tell you about today's worksite. What is new? What has changed? How can you help the small and large groups, both? Why even small discounts makes more difference than you might think. And also where Worksite is headed in the near future. We'll go into details later about how more state legislatures are considering and even moving forward with state-run payroll taxes, and that affects you. After all this, we'll make sure that you're ready to go whenever the opportunity presents itself to you. Mike will actually be walking us through the Worksite advantages.
Okay, so several different things to consider here when you're thinking about the advantages of being in the Worksite space. All right, the biggest, most obvious one is the economy of scale. Ask yourself from a perspective of the old adage about working smart versus working hard. Would you rather have an opportunity to get in front of 25 employees plus spouses and partners to talk about long-term care when you have a motivated employer, or do you want to continue to skip from through a series of kitchen table conversations with the proverbial Bob and Carol Davis? The likelihood is that the two are going to overlap somewhere along the way. Bob and Carol Davis work somewhere in all likelihood, and you may very well end up having that conversation with them as part of the overall Worksite presentation that you might do. So you do avail yourself of a significant opportunity here with the economy of scale. The other thing that you do with this is you keep yourself out of a never-ending hunt and or chase for leads. Because if you sit down, and I always talk about this with agents, if you sit down at your coffee table on Saturday morning with a cup of coffee, you and your spouse, you and your partner, and talk about the people that you know and where they work and their spouses and where they work, and then you talk about your partners, folks that meet that fall into that, you're going to come up with easily a couple dozen different opportunities to have conversations with employers. And you put yourself in a position where you can not only protect the employee and the spouse by making this available, but you're actually going to protect the company. And that's going to be one of the things that we're going to look at a little bit later, just exactly how this happens. And there's also potentially tax breaks for the employer as well. The different carriers that we have make available for us the ability to handle groups down to about as small as you can imagine. Well, we can go all the way down to a situation where you have 5 employee applications to get into an advantaged, a cost-advantaged environment. Okay, you can make these benefits available to spouses, which is also a significant opportunity there, particularly when you talk about these tax situations, these taxes and trusts and such that will be coming in the aftermath and on the heels of Washington. And it is really, truly amazing to see just how motivated people get by something as small as a discount. And you also put yourself in a situation when you're having the initial conversation with the employer, you're talking to them about cutting their tax bill as well. And that's always something that they are interested in. So let's go ahead and change up to the next slide. And if you've been on webinars that I've been doing over the last 6 or 7 years, you hear me talk a lot about this idea of protecting the American dream. Well, we are still doing that with this. We are still positioning these employees to make sure that their retirement plan doesn't get blown to smithereens by an unexpected change in somebody's health, whether it be the employee or the spouse. Along the way, that we get to talk with the employer about the tax laws and how the tax laws can make it cost beneficial for the employer to actually participate. So now the employer's along for the ride rather than just basically saying, okay, agent, come on in and talk to my people. Okay, they are able to reduce their tax burden with that. And they also, as I alluded to on the prior slide, they also are in a position now where they can protect the additional investment they have made in their employees. Not unusual at all to see a situation where you have an employer, big or small, with a 401k or that type of retirement plan in place for the employees that they are matching for. Well, matching, this is really detailed, but you need to know it. Matching is virtually always vested. And it's vested immediately. And that means if there's an unexpected change in the health of an employee, that 401k plan is where they're going to access the funds necessary if they don't have long-term care, and that matching money is at risk. Okay, so that's one of the two ways the employer is protecting their investment. The second way is reducing their tax burden. So think about this for a second. There's articles all the time about how difficult it is right now to find, keep, retain, whatever word you want to use, employees. What better way to incent your employees to stay than to offer this benefit, which is the one benefit that will protect their retirement plan, right? And why not, if you're the employer, why not do it in a way that's going to allow the employee to be rewarded rather than to continue to write a large check to Uncle Sam? That seems to me to be something of a no-brainer, but you got to start by having that conversation with the employers. Now, Don's going to talk about why we're emphasizing the employer's choice as being so important.
Yes, thanks, Mike. So yeah, we're going to talk about taxes, and paying taxes. Taxes, good old Uncle Sam. Everybody loves Uncle Sam. So the question is, would you rather your employer groups rather pay Uncle Sam or reward their employees? This is an entry point to the employer. Do you want to reduce what you pay in taxes? That's the question. That is it. The first question has an easy answer. We know that we don't think anyone really wants to pay taxes. So when working with worksite plans with the employer, we'll be able to help both or benefit both. Their employees get long-term care benefits and protect their retirement investments like Mike was alluding to, also giving themselves a tax deduction. This is a win-win situation for everyone, except Uncle Sam. I just got to reiterate that is a huge thing. Win-win for everyone. You also just remember, as the agent, you don't have to be the tax expert in the room. The employers have their departments who will help them understand that and help them through that process. That's the biggest part of this that we want to make sure everybody understands. On top of everything else, there's the Washington trust mess. We all know, if you're in Washington, you know what's happened there, and it's an ongoing issue. The thing Washington taught us in this is how quickly the carriers pulled out of the market. I mean, when they saw that this isn't going to be monitored. They're thinking about chargebacks and all of that kind of stuff, which is a bad thing for everything. And individual sales closed within 2 months of finding that out. All the carriers just kind of backed off. So be-back appointments, they would come back, and they did. We also learned several unexpected things in that process. We were surprised, as everybody else, that employers were willing to spend money to keep Uncle Sam out of their payroll operations. How angry at a potential tax and how much they were willing to spend just to not have to pay a tax. Huge things. Washington, it was just a beta test. It failed miserably. And there are more states on deck. There just are. We're trying to make sure everybody's aware of what's going on. Oregon, California, Michigan are just ones we know of that are coming up, that are working on actual things that are going to be kind of similar. So we want to make sure everybody's fully aware of that. With that, I'm going to send it back over to Mike.
Okay, upselling. Why does upselling matter? Why do be-backs matter? Okay, well, the one piece of Worksite that's different than what you normally do is the employees that are on a census for company X, they get the proverbial one bite of the apple. All right, and one bite of the apple means they got one chance at simplified issue underwriting if you're in a Worksite case. All right, and that means that if they don't exercise that simplified issue option during that 30-day enrollment window, they can come in later, but they got to go full underwriting, more questions, health interviews, things like that you don't normally want to deal with. So this is another advantaged part of this that's very much different than what you see with traditional products, traditional carriers, those kinds of things. So you've got that short window with the reduced underwriting options. Okay, inflation may not be as important as what we normally teach it to be from several different perspectives. And part of that ties into the be-back, is because when you're talking to a 44-year-old employee of company X, the best thing to do might be to put them into a smaller plan, just to get them into a plan and to get them to see the value of that plan. What we know from a standpoint of awareness and long-term care awareness is once you get this employee, Dave Smith and his wife Shelley, let's just say, okay, once you get Dave and Shelley into the plan, they're telling people, well, we bought long-term care insurance through Dave's employer, and that was because they made it available for us. They're paying a small part of the premiums, which makes it even more affordable for us. And while Dave and Shelley are having this conversation with his parents or her parents, they say, well, you probably don't remember, but your grandpa Joe had a Worksite plan through company Z that he had, and he kept it for a long time, and eventually it paid off when he had to go into a nursing home. The last 4 years of his life, he had this benefit available, and that made a huge difference to them financially, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, that's the learning curve piece of this, the understanding, the acknowledgement, the awareness, all of that play back into this. All right, and they play into the idea that you could start with a base plan, knowing that you're going to have these be-back opportunities down the road. And it may be as simple as getting kids out of high school, getting kids through college and such, where it becomes an opportunity where they have a little bit more discretionary income, and then you circle back around and you put something else in place on top of what it was that they already had. All right, that enhanced awareness of long-term care, that enhanced awareness of why it matters, and the family history that they were unaware of how it ended up mattering and paying off. For grandpa, that's going to set the stage for the second chance appointment. And you're also going to see opportunities for upsells at delivery time, because when you call Dave and Shelley and let them know that their policy has been approved, both their policies have been approved, and the paperwork's on the way to them, whether it be electronic delivery or whatever it is, that's the perfect opportunity to talk to them about, well, We originally set this up low. You've had a chance to think about it a little more, and you do have the opportunity to move from that A level benefit up to a B or a C level benefit, a little bit more cost out of pocket. But again, the awareness, the understanding, et cetera, that's going to, that's going to be a big piece of this as you have these conversations with them. Okay. So now we've covered sort of the basics of why this makes sense and why you should be participating and why it matters. I'm going to turn back over to Don, and he's going to dive into the specifics of our carrier option.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so now we're actually going to talk about pure Worksite and LifeSecure. We're going to have a few companies we're going to go through, but we're going to go one by one, talk about the difference of simplified issues and common employer discounts. So with LifeSecure, as you can see on the screen, you can kind of read through some of the options they have. LifeSecure is actually a pure Worksite option and is the only one with simplified issue available. Saying that there's only 7 questions with simplified issue versus 20 plus questions when you're talking about full underwriting when you're working with traditional long-term care. With simplified issue for employees lasts for 30 days. There's a 30-day window enrollment period. So you'll have that window for the simplified issue. You won't find a better opportunity for a spouse receiving simplified issue and unisex rates. So spouses will get the best of both worlds. They'll get unisex rates that can save them up to 30% compared to trying to issue a female spouse through another plan. You just won't get that kind of percent for a discount. Then there's group census. Group census main parts to be eligible for them to qualify for the group. There's the male-female ratio, needs to be 50-50 at least, or heavier on the male side. That's just one of the 2 main parts of the qualifications. There's also 50% need to have at least a $40,000 salary or higher. Those are the 2 key factors when trying to qualify with LifeSecure for their group. So then there's the amount of employees. When you're working with groups under 100 employees, the employer will contribute, or it's mandatory that the employer contributes 25 per employee. So that's with groups under 100 with LifeSecure. If you're working with a group over 100, it's voluntary, 100%. So there's no mandatory fee that the employer would pay. So there's 2 key factors with that. So anything under 100, it could be 99 down. So you got to make sure you're that fact. They don't allow anything under that. So it's either under 100 or over. So it's either voluntary or mandatory for the pay. We have seen employers pay actually when they have a voluntary, the employees or the employers still pay either the 25 or I've even seen them where they pay the full amount for all employees. It just helps them with their tax deductions also. So there's a lot of things going on with this, under 100, over 100, but employers can decide if they want to help pay the full amount if they're the voluntary, so which is really nice on their part. Here you can see the product details of the LifeSecure. We're going to let you take a moment and look them over just so you can see the eligibilities. As you can see, issue ages, the coverage types, there's minimum requirements for group size. Big thing, must have 10 submitted apps. No matter what size the group is with LifeSecure, you have to have 10 apps. And additionally, spousal discount. You can see that all in here. We have these forms, electronic and printed copies, that are available. But in saying that, to have this available, everything in your contracting has to be completed for us to be able to give those to you. It's a compliance issue, and we want to make sure everybody's fully aware of that. So here's another example. This is actually shows you the plan at a glance. It's another thing you can look through. It shows you the benefit bank options for the employees. This shows all the plans each employee can choose from. Please note that the 50,000 option may not be available in all states. One unique aspect of LifeSecure's Worksite plan is that all of the applications are completed fully by the employees and spouse, which means less paperwork for you. This is a pure Worksite LTC plan that we offer. We're now going to go through some of the modified plans we offer also through some other carriers. Mutual Omaha is one of those that we also use for a discount. When you're working with Worksite in that arena, you're going to find out that there are many different size groups with one thing in common. Employees like receiving discounts. I don't know somebody or anybody who really would like that. Mutual of Omaha has their own option that helps with these groups. In the common employee, so it's called the common employer discount. With very few requirements, it's easy to reach this threshold for the discount. Simply put, you need 5 employee applications to get started, which results in a 5% discount to all that apply, including spouses. Rules you need to be aware of, though. There has to be 5 employee apps submitted at the same time. We're kind of going to dive into that a little later, but that's the big key magic number, as you would say, for mutual and the common employer discount. So as you can see, the specifics on the common employer discount on the screen, you can read through exactly how it works, but it's directly from the product guide, pages 34 and 35. You can read through it. We've attached this so you can actually see it on the webinar. It's actually under the attachment tabs on this webinar, so just feel free to take a look at it at your convenience. The rule is very simple, but there are some things you'll need to pay attention to when using this. Remember, like I said, 5 is the magic number, but there must be 5 applications to start. There's no exceptions. The biggest thing is they won't let you take 3 apps and then add 2 later. There's actually a form you fill out that is a questionnaire that goes in with the first 5 names of those applications that you'll go on. We're here to help with that. Our new business department can help make sure everything goes and is in order when submitting those first 5. Just remember that if you have any questions about those, you can always call us and let us know, and we can get you the answers. Remember always on this one that there is a 5% discount that also applies for the spouses. One other note you want to make sure of, it's not a pure Worksite. So this one is a common employer discount, and with mutual, they will go through the full underwriting process. We also have National Guardian Life. So it's a little different with National Guardian Life. National Guardian Life also has the ability to help with your groups with the employer group premium discount. That's kind of the name they go with. Very similar to mutual. What you need to know, though, is that to get the 5% discount is that the real number for them is issued policies. So mutual has it to where it's just 5 people applying, but when it comes to NGL, it's actually issued policies. We're going to take a little more time on the next slide to go through the requirements and how that works. So we have also attached the agent guide for NGL under the attachment sections on the webinar. Here's a screenshot of the employer group requirements. It's on page 18, 19 of their guide for more details, but you can kind of read through this as I'm talking about it, and you can see their qualifications. They have group size, minimum participation, census information, age range. But a few of the most important pieces to look at are individuals will go through full underwriting, also with NGL, which if you aren't aware with NGL's process, this can be quite detailed. So they're a little more, a little more strict on their underwriting. So, but it is full underwriting, as I've said. There is a minimum number of employees of the company that must be issued for the groups to qualify. At the bottom of the slide, you can see that there is a state variations. Some states have different numbers of required issued apps to qualify. These issue apps required vary from 2 to 5. So, I mean, you could have actually 2 people in a worksite with NGL, depending on the state. So let's just say, for example, Oregon. Oregon, they say you have to have 2 issued apps by employees to get the group going. Others say 5 minimum. But with NGL, remember, this has to be issued apps. That's the biggest key with their product. Mutual is just submitted apps. So those are 2 of the different ways that you can get a 5% discount with small groups, just so you're aware of both of those. There's always questions. We always have them. So we're going to move on to the next. It's not only about shutdowns that you want to be worried about. I mean, that is a big thing, how fast companies are going to shut down, but there's also the slowdowns. Slowdowns are just as bad. And what I'm talking about is with longer wait times for contracting, that's a huge thing. So we need to make sure you're fully contracted, get everything in. It's important that you start now, make sure everything is in good order, beginning with contracting and training. LifeSecure actually has some training that you'll need to do through some videos to make sure you know how to use the portal so you can help the employers set up so they can get their employees in the process of getting everything going smoothly. When state-run LTC legislation starts, Worksite is just one of the important pieces to the puzzle. You can't forget about the traditional long-term care or hybrid products to fit your clients' needs. We call them our 6-pack plus features. I mean, it's what we have here at AIM. We have many companies talking from Mutual of Omaha, National Guardian Life, Thrivent, LifeSecure, One America, Gillico, and Securian. All of our Worksite plans we just went over. Our traditional plans and our hybrid products with whole life LTC, LTC hybrids, and also we have annuities with LTC hybrids. So don't wait. If you do, you're going to get caught up in the mad dash of newbies trying to get in the game as states come on with all of these trust plans or care plans that, just like Washington. So it's better to be prepared than not. And we have all the weapons here to help you here at AIM. All the marketers know their stuff about the groups, the traditionals. We just want to make sure you're fully aware of what's going on and how we can help you. With saying that, I want to make sure everybody, I appreciate your time being on the webinar. We're always here to help, like I say. The marketers here are actually going to be reaching out to you to answer any questions after we're done here with the webinar. We'll get a list of agents that we're on. We have quite a few that we're actually on today. I appreciate everybody's time again. Thank you very much for being on our webinar. We'll talk soon. Thanks.